Your boy Ghost Reeby got invited to play a big new game. And that game is bikes. Bikes in space. What's going on, everybody? It's Ghost Robo. Thanks so much for supporting the restart of this channel so that I could get an opportunity like this. Thanks to Ubisoft for letting me partake in their Star Wars Outlaws event. I got to play 3 hours of the game, and boy, oh boy, did my time fly by. I've got a really good assortment of footage here that's going to showcase many different elements of the game. It's going to highlight my concern, and it's going to highlight all of the things that I found very enjoyable. I gotta say right off the bat, the best part of Star Wars Outlaws is the Star Wars. And I think whether you are a super fan or you just know of Star Wars, you tangentially have a friend who's a fan, you've seen 2 of the movies but not the rest, I think the window dressing, if you will, everything that they've put into this game to make it reek of Star Wars, like, I love that aroma. I love that smell. I think it is definitely a nice perfume or cologne. It is not something super stinky. And by that I mean just the Star Wars world, the lore, the characters, the scenery, the setting is very engaging. I think it is better than a lot of the more ho-hum generic things we've seen in Ubisoft's past. Now, I don't want to call out any specific games or specific teams, but you know, Ubisoft does have that way of making it feels like the same game time and time again. And there are elements of Star Wars Outlaws that are that same game, but then there are elements of Star Wars Outlaws that feel like, you know what, this is new enough and different enough, and thankfully Star Wars enough to feel like it can exist on its own and not constantly be compared to Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, and the likes. Star Wars Outlaws succeeds because it embraces that Star Wars nature and drops it everywhere like it's glitter adhering to your skin. You know, when glitter gets over and you can't get rid of it, you can't get rid of the Star Wars in this Star Wars Outlaws, and I think that's a great thing. Whether it is the way the characters engage with you, whether it is the way that the world takes shape, even the missions and the menus all feel very Star Wars-esque. Arriving at each city and going to their local cantina just feels like the perfect way to begin your exploration of said region, and I was really impressed by the size of the planets. I got to play on 2 planets, Toshara and Kajimi, Toshara being this sandy world, Kashimi being the eventual icy snow planet. But before we get to more of that, this is my favorite part of the game. No joke, it sounds dumb, but like, this rhythm-based minigame to lockpick is fantastic. Okay, you listen to the rhythmic pattern, and then you have to press the trigger in time with the rhythm. Something about this just appealed to me so much. It feels like a great Rhythm Heaven Mario Party minigame, and I really loved it more than the traditional lockpick, like feel for the vibration, or hit the spinning wheel. So the worlds are quite gorgeous. I think the game looks really, really nice. Like I said, the size was a surprise. The fact that you can take your speeder bike and just zoom across, seeing different little dynamic encounters, coming up upon side quests, little areas, new shops, things of that sort. Very fun. This, though, is the meat and potatoes of the gameplay, which is going to be, I hope, not the thing that brings it down. What you're taking a peek at right now is a stronghold mission. This is an infiltration mission, a stealth mission, and that's what most of Star Wars Outlaws gameplay, at least that I've seen, is centered around. Stealthy action where you do have a blaster as a last resort, and you do have Nyx, your jack-of-all-trade little puppy, as someone that can distract, that can attack, that can detonate grenades, that can sabotage, that can do basically everything. It's kind of like a win-all button, but thankfully it doesn't feel like a win-all button. Thankfully, the game I found to be decently challenging, even early on. I think these soldiers that you stealth by are decently smart. Now, I will say that the challenge seems to take a tip when you do get found out. There is an ability, as there are in many open world games, to back into a corner and shoot your way out of a very sticky situation. And once I found out that I could do that, I got kind of bummed out because I don't like that being my default option. I prefer this stealthy nature where you've got tall grass and you've got cameras to avoid. You got to utilize Nyx and some of your distraction abilities to circumvent everyone around you. And Star Wars Outlaws has a heavy tech focus, so you're sabotaging different equipment, you're trying to take different power cores. I mean, it's the basic same stuff you've seen in other stealth missions and other open world games, but it's done up with Star Wars, which I really love. But it was once I got spotted, which was, a solid challenge. Once I got spotted, that then you can kill an enemy and pick up their weapon. And utilizing enemy weapons seems to be far more effective than your own blaster. Kay's arsenal is going to be upgraded as you complete quests with different experts, and I think that's a really cool way of doing a skill tree more than just like, here's 3 points, spend 3 points. No, you have to go out and like find these people that can upgrade your blaster, or repair your ship, or improve your speeder bike. I think that's really darn nifty. And the shooting feels okay, but this is not like first and foremost a shooter. It's not even first and foremost a combat game as far as the sections I play. Now, maybe the game does evolve, change, develop, but it's much more of a stealth exploration game and a lore game, if that makes any sense. I think that the emphasis here is like living in this Star Wars world. And I know it's a dangerous conversation to get into, but like if this was just generic girl thief in a generic world, I don't know that the gameplay would be enough to really get it talked about all that much. I think the gameplay is perfectly sufficient, but thus far, based on what I played, I'm concerned about the repetitious nature of the stealth sections. Like I said, there's nothing egregiously bad or even like ho-hum about it. It all is pretty darn good. It controls well, it plays well. It seems like there's a number of different options for different infiltrations, different bases. You always have a few options. There's going to be escape sequences. You can be super careful. You can go guns blazing. Of course, you have your climbing and your little limited platforming. You've got your navigating around and trying to maybe come up with a secret route that you design on your own. It's all good, but is any of it going to be great? I think what the great stuff is going to be here is the lore and the traversal in terms of the speeder bike and the ships, the characters that you meet along the way, and ultimately how K-Vess evolves from beginning to end. Can K-Vess go from generic smuggler girl to a character that we care about within the greater context of the Star Wars universe? Is she going to have a backstory that we buy into? Is she going to have emotional moments and heroic moments that resonate? Are we going to feel like this girl deserves to have 30 hours of our time? I think ultimately that's going to determine the true merit of Star Wars Outlaws, because based on what I've seen, it's not going to be the gameplay that wins this any awards. It'll be the world, the characters, and just look, the Star Wars of it. I think it's a really pretty game, and I think the fact that the planets are expansive and that there are many of them, some you're familiar with and some that they got to design and create on their own, I think that's a perfect hybrid situation. I also really like the different syndicates, and that is the area of gameplay that I found to be most enjoyable. You have different syndicates that you can work for, you can play them against each other, and there are story moments where you'll have to choose, like, yo, am I going to give this over to you so I can stay in good with the Hutt clan, or am I going to double cross them and improve my reputation with the Crimson Dawn? And in my time with the game, I got to see one or two of these, and it played out like, okay, I could just walk away here, or I can shoot this cartel gal. It's a pretty simplistic situation. It was kind of a 1 or 0, but it wasn't good or bad. And I think that's kind of cool that the game is letting you decide what is good or bad. Even as you go from poor to great reputation, that's not indicating that your character is a good or bad character. And so often in games like this, wow, that's a beautiful scene. I had to pause here just to like take a peek. Kind of reminds me of the opening world from Jedi Survivor. Oof, that's going to be interesting how we compare those two games, which one's more successful at translating Star Wars to a popular genre. Anyhow, there's all sorts of shops and merchants, as you'll see here in the conversations, but I like that you can operate in the gray. But I do hope that by operating in the gray, there still are some moments that define who your K-Vess is, separate from my K-Vess, right? So I hope if I align with the Hutt cartel, that later on in the game, that's going to pay dividends in a cutscene, a story moment, some mission, something that's going to be different. Right now, the way that they explain kind of the difference between the factions is like, oh, if you support the Pikes, they'll come help you out. If you support the Crimson Dawn, they'll come help you out. If you support the Sheikah clan, you can shop at their shop. If you support the Crimson Dawn, you can shop at their shop. I need more than that. I need more than just, again, swapping out the Crimson Dawn for the Pikes. I can get red clothes instead of blue clothes. I have, this kind of helper instead of this kind of helper. I need there to be significant story impacts, and I'd love there to be gameplay impact as well. We don't know all the abilities that Kay will acquire. We don't know all the weaponry. We don't know all the abilities and that sort of thing. So will there be some specifics that are only acquirable or only usable if you have a great reputation with certain clans? I surely hope so. I think that clan system could be really great. And to me, that should be a huge emphasis, because this is a smuggler fantasy game, right? You are trying to be the best Han Solo you can be, basically. You get to pilot the ship. You get to land the ship. They try to make it as seamless as they can. You get to throw your sticks into hyperdrive as you go from system to system, and you are living that life kind of on the outskirts, kind of ragtag gang of, anti-heroes, maybe, sort of side characters, schmucks at times. I don't really know exactly who all you're going to get, but I did like Waka, and I like Jalen, and I like ND5. I think it's fun just to be in this world. I hope that they don't dip out on the influence of that syndicate system and make it something that just feels, again, skippable, and or like it doesn't matter. Like, well, I either have the Pikes helping me or the Crimson Dawn, because look, it could become that way. If I have to pick to help the Crimson Dawn or help the Hutt, somebody's going to help me. I don't think I can have poor standing with everybody, so if I'm going to have good standing with somebody and poor with another, I hope that there are implications and consequences to that. I thought Kajimi was a really pretty world here as I navigated amongst the snowy streets. And look, there's lots of creatures around. People are talking, having conversations. Stormtroopers are patrolling. This Bantha is getting a bath. He's trying to stay warm. And it does sort of feel like, okay, each of these planets has its own vibe and its own charm and its own, at least in this instance, its own layout. Like, Kajimi was a very labyrinthine city in comparison to, I think it's Mastara or Mastara. Whatever the city was on Toshara was laid out very differently, and I hope that each planet has some sort of elements that make it feel its own. There's contracts you can pick up, there's data pads you can read, there are a lot of side quests that you can grab just by talking to characters, or someone will be like, hey, psst, come over here, and then you listen to them. I just hope that all the missions aren't fetch quest and or the same type of stealth. They're going to have to find a way to, as the game progresses, transition and change what you're doing. It's fun to send Nyx over to distract. It's fun to use Kay's data pick here. It's fun to take guys down. But if that's what we're going to do over and over and over again, they're going to have to up the ante at some point. You're about to see another stealth mission that, in effect, functions a lot like the first. Now, stealth is going to be stealth, but I really hope they're able to find a way to vary up the gameplay in these stealth missions, if those are going to be the major missions, stealth and escape, because I don't really just want to, dodge 3 guys, steal the relic, crawl through the vent, run to escape, hop on my speeder bike, and go away. Like, that could be a very repetitious process that maybe it takes place in every major mission. Like, is there more than just that? There is this little sort of deduction minigame. It's basically like a Mastermind Junior that kind of is reminiscent of like the Fallout game where you're trying to hack into a computer, get some extra intel, and I do appreciate that kind of stuff. Like I said, I think the lore elements are the strongest, and so it incentivizes me to want to explore, to want to hack into computers, to want to learn more about this world, and maybe even just as much learn about how these cartels, how these syndicates, how these clans are going to battle with each other, and who really are the good guys, who really are the bad guys, who really can you trust. Can we trust Ubisoft to deliver enough difference in gameplay to make this a fully fleshed out, worthwhile experience? Will every planet and every major mission have a door that I carefully open and then carefully close and then go around the corner and send Nyx to a distract and walk up from behind and take them out? I do not know. But I got the sense that this is going to be sort of one of the major crux of what makes Star Wars Outlaws notable in 2024 or passable in 2024. Are the stealth missions diverse and different enough to be cool and memorable? And are there set pieces that help distinguish things? I can't help but feel like Star Wars Outlaws is going to be compared, as I mentioned, to Star Wars Jedi series, Survivor, the most recent, and because Survivor kind of took more of an open world take and had more side missions, like, they're gonna be pretty easy to stand next to each other and say, which one took better advantage of the IP? If I had to guess based on my limited time with Outlaws, which may not be fair, I would say Survivor is looking to be the stronger game and is looking to be a more dynamic affair, probably because it's mostly a linear game that's able to go set piece to set piece. But that's the exact element of Outlaws that I can't tell from a 3-hour session, and I will need to play through the whole game myself to find out if it lives up to what Survivor started as what I believe is a resurgence, a renaissance of the IP in the video game space. I'm absolutely excited for Star Wars Outlaws, and I did see enough and experience enough in my demo session that I want to play this whole game. I want to see where it goes, I want to see what it does, and I'm going to give it a good 15 to 20 hours to see how much variety they can pack in and to learn more about KVS, Nyx, ND5, and the world that they've created. I love falling in line with the clans that I've seen in the movies and then meeting new unique characters as well. I think the graphical effects are pretty good. The game seems to be quite the looker, especially in the variety that they've put in visually from the different planets. And you have, your mark and execute type move. You have your different blaster modes. The weapons we didn't even talk about all that much, but it does seem to be quite limited because this isn't really a shooter. Like, there are third-person shooter elements, but at least based on what I played, that is not the emphasis, or that is not the majority of the gameplay. And I'll be curious to see if in the full project, if I do feel like, hey, guns and shooting does play more of a role, like ratio-wise, percentage-wise, than what I saw here. Obviously, you can go guns blazing at all times and probably make it more of a shooter if you would like. But like I also mentioned, the blaster felt pretty to me. Like, I like picking up the opponent's guns and making sure that I could grab something that, fired fast, like an automatic type weapon. Anyways, guys and girls, that is going to be Star Wars Outlaws. My final take is, very excited, very promising. I do have some concerns, and the main concern is probably, the typical Ubisoft concern. Is this open world game going to feel like a checklist or like a bespoke, designed world with great set pieces and wonderful individual missions that are memorable? How is it going to pan out when all is said and done? And the only way to find that out is to play the whole game. But luckily, everything I saw here has me excited for launch later in August, and I cannot wait to play more with you on the channel. I'm really hopeful. I think if they can get the story right and then get the variety right, this will go down as one of the best games of 2024. And I think even if they don't, it still will be a super fun time, primarily for Star Wars fans, but really for fans who kind of just need a different twist on open world. We have, Far Cry in sort of jungles and militias and deserts, and we have Assassin's Creed in the ancient times, and we even have Pandora, which kind of felt different, but at the same time was just like a different skinned Far Cry in the way that Primal was. Outlaws has a chance to at least be dramatically different in its setup, in its scenes, in its items, in its craftables. Everything is set within a space age world, which I don't feel like we've seen much, save for Starfield, but again, a very different kind of game, and that one, frankly, was not received as well as I think anyone hoped it would be. So let me know your take on Star Wars Outlaws. Fingers crossed they can deliver as the final stretch of waiting for this game occurs in the month of August. In the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button if you did, and until next time, drink some hot chocolate, and we will see you all later.